Deals and special offers. Got to be a good thing, right? It's always good to save money. Well, today we're going to be talking about why special offers aren't always all that special. So let's grab a seat and talk it through. Well, hey there, and thanks for joining me in yet another video in this series of videos of the gym paradox, the pros and cons of joining a gym. If this is your first video in this series, there are other videos already up on the channel and you can go and check them out at your leisure. Just check the headings and see if there's any topics that look interesting to you. But I will put, as always, a link in the description below to the original piece of content up on DCSfit.com, and you can check that out at your leisure. But while you're down there, if you wouldn't mind just taking 1 second to click on that thumbs up button, and if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, then hit the subscribe button, and if you want to get notifications as soon as these new videos go up onto the channel, then hit the notification bell, and something should just pop up on your mobile device as soon as we post a new video. So today we're talking about deals and special offers, and what makes one deal special and another one not so much. You might think that saving money is a no-brainer, it's bound to be a good thing, but there are often negative connotations that come along with that. So when you have something over here, it affects something over here. So by giving a deal out on one end, it might be negatively impacting you somewhere else. And that's what we really want to explore here. So in the main, there's three types of deal. There's one that benefits the membership as a whole, particularly the person that's signing up to the deal. There's one that is there purely to try and capitalize on the latest trend and pad profits for the facility or the person offering the service. And there are some that are born purely out of desperation in order to try and get money through the door very, very quickly because suddenly there's a desperate need for it. So we're going to go through all of these and try and look at the details of them and what you might want to be looking out for when you're considering whether or not a deal is a good thing for you. But one thing I will say is that saving money does not suddenly turn a bad facility or a bad choice or bad option into a good one. So when is a deal or a special offer used well? Well, in all cases, a good deal is one that benefits everyone within the facility. Maybe not everyone is going to get the specific deal, but everyone should benefit from it. Certainly what shouldn't be happening is one person benefits from it to the detriment of everyone else. And those are the kind of deals we're going to look at in a moment. But for the sake of this argument, what I'm looking at here is something like controlling the numbers. It's going to be to the benefit of everyone if the place doesn't get too busy or too overpopulated. So by using certain deals at certain times of the year, it can be used to ensure that the numbers don't escalate completely out of control, but they never drop so far either that the place is in danger of going under. So, for example, I was a member of a facility for quite some time, and they would use something along these lines where there would be a sign up fee, for example. But the sign up fee as a standard is pretty high. If I remember rightly, the standard sign up fee was £100. So when you walk through the door, you have to lay down £100 immediately upon signing up. You pay your first month's membership, and then after that, you're paying your membership thereon in. However, that wasn't really what they intended to charge. It was just a way of being able to control these numbers. They had a limit, a cap on the number of members that they wanted to have at any given time, but they never wanted to be too far away from that limit either. What they really wanted was that number, the limit, no more, but not really any less either, somewhere within about 2 or 3% of that number. And that was good for everyone because it meant the place never got massively busy, but it also meant that they could afford to keep renewing equipment or employing people and making the facility good for everyone. So the experience was good for everyone. The deals that were there to ensure that if there was a drop off in the numbers, then they could waive or discount that sign up fee. And that would encourage more people to go ahead with it. Whereas if they were in a position where they were right at the peak of those numbers, or potentially they were only within one or two, then they would charge the full sign-up fee. Now that might put most people off, but that was the point of it. It was there to ensure that it was potentially putting people off. But if somebody was willing to pay the extra, now there was more money coming in, and now they were in a stronger position going forward. Now, as long as that's not being used to pad profits purely for greed's sake, then that's a good thing, because it does mean then that members can be sure that if something breaks, it's going to get fixed. If they need assistance, there's going to be enough people there to assist them, and that the place doesn't have any danger of going under. But at the same time, it also means that it never gets to the point where it's so jam packed that it is impossible to use the place. And that's the kind of deal that we're going to come on to later that is more problematic. Another good use of a special offer or a deal is to increase engagement. Now, so I have some personal examples of that that we'll come back to later, but what I mean by increasing engagement is if there are certain times of year where the numbers tend to drop off, as in the number of people using the facility, and something can be put in place to encourage people to turn up and continue to train, then that's obviously beneficial. It might just be that you're trying to create an emotional response for people in order to try and get them to recommit to their health and their fitness. And that, after all, is what the industry is here for. So anything that's going to encourage commitment to betterment of your own health and well-being, that's something that should be applauded. And if it takes a special offer or a deal to make that happen, then that's got to be a good thing. So another time that special offers can be useful is to gauge true interest in a change of service, an additional service, a change of how the venue's set up, or what have you, or bringing in additional equipment, that kind of thing. Anything that was going to potentially cost more, there was going to be an additional charge for it. But it also requires putting infrastructure in place before the thing can go ahead. Then using some kind of special offer in order to see whether or not people are willing to part with the cash beforehand is going to be beneficial. For example, it might be that a new workshop, people have been clamoring for a workshop of some kind. And it's going to be something that somebody's going to have to be paid, a specialist is going to have to be paid to be brought in. They're going to set up this workshop, and there's a hope that enough people are going to turn up to make it worthwhile. If they go ahead with it without doing anything, set it up and just base it on people's words and say, yep, okay, we're going to do this workshop, and it's this week, and it's going to cost £100 or something per head to go to this workshop. Is everybody going to be up for that? And people say yes. Then they go ahead and they set it up, and they feel that they need 25 people in order to break even on the day. And now that they've got it set up, everything's paid for, everything's booked, and it's ready to go ahead. And now they go out and say, okay, the workshop's on. Is everybody still looking to sign up? Suddenly, that's when the oh, I can't make it that week, or oh, actually, I can't really afford it right now, and all the excuses come out under the sun. So by putting it as a special offer and saying, well, look, we're going to set this thing up. If you're willing to pay for it now, ahead of time, we're only going to charge you £75, something like that. That special offer is worthwhile because what both sides are getting a benefit out of it. The people who are paying up front are showing their commitment to go ahead with this thing, and now the people who are organizing it get to know that there is at least enough people in order to make it worthwhile going ahead. So everybody gets what they want out of it. The people who commit early ensure that the thing goes ahead, plus they get a discount. Now the thing's going ahead, anybody who wasn't willing to commit can still pay for it and go in probably at full price, but there was no risk to the venue, or very little risk potentially. So using something along those lines is definitely a good thing. When deals and special offers aren't particularly beneficial is when it's to the detriment of the facility or the service as a whole. Now, one of the most common ones for this are seasonal deals, particularly New Year's deals and the beginning of summer. These are the two times when there's the biggest uptake in memberships across the board, and each facility wants to make sure that they're the one that is top of mind when people are reviewing gyms to go and join. Particularly because those are the same people that are likely to join and a couple of months later not be coming anymore but still paying their membership. However, when these deals go out and it's basically making it so that new people coming in can pay an awful lot less in order to join. And this might be a long-term thing. It might be if you join now, you get your membership at half price for the year or something crazy like that. This is just the new people. So all the people that have been committed to the facility for the past year, 2 years, 5 years, and been paying full price, they don't benefit at all from this. All these new people coming flooding in, what they're doing is taking up space on the gym floor. So actually the people that have been committed to the facility for all this time are now being hampered by this deal. So you see where I'm getting at with this, that it's not just a case of, oh, well, this person saved money, so that's a good thing. You're actually hampering the other people within the facility. And it might well be that the view of that is, well, they can leave if they want to. Well, yes, maybe it depends on whether or not they've got a contract or not. But it might well be that some of them do leave. And as far as the facility is concerned, that might not be the worst thing in the world, because then they leave, but they're the ones that were actively using the place. But what they're getting are people who are coming in on a notion at New Year's or at the beginning of the summer when they're thinking, oh, I'm going to have to start wearing t-shirts, or I've got a holiday booked or something. I really need to do something about this. And there's a panic in there. And then they come in for a little while and then they sort of drift out of it, but they keep paying for months and months and months afterwards. So this is all money rolling into the bank, but none of the equipment's getting used. There's no need for a huge amount of staff at any given time. And there's just more space in the place now to be able to sell even more memberships going forward. So no one really benefits. Even the people that are getting the discount, if they are falling into that category where they're not going to really follow through on it, essentially what they're doing then is they're not just paying the discounted rate for the couple of months where they do use it, but they're going to keep paying probably for a few months afterwards before they realize that they're not going very often. And when you add all that up, actually they've paid probably more than the membership would have been just for those few months that they did use the place. But on top of that, when they do go in for the first time at that discounted rate, so many people have had that discounted rate, now the gym floor is mobbed. And that becomes much more intimidating, which is something I've discussed in previous videos. Walking into a heavily populated gym floor can be very off-putting, especially if you don't really know what you're doing. So that's maybe going to encourage that person to kind of sheepishly work their way through the place, maybe get a little bit of help because they've had an induction or something, do something for a couple of weeks, but then internally they start finding excuses not to turn up. So you might be thinking to yourself, as I have over the years, why isn't the discount the norm? Well, I've already discussed a little bit why that might be. It could be that there's a deliberate reason for moving the figures up and down to try and control numbers so that they don't oversubscribe, but they don't have too few people either. And also there was the example that I gave of trying to beta test a new product or a new service and just trying to get people through the door to see what the feedback is from it. And that could be another reason why there's special offers at any given point as well. If it is something particularly new and the facility or the service is looking for testimonials or just photographs and videos and things of it happening, then it's completely logical that it might be a case of putting it out at a lower price in order to encourage more people in so that they can get the photographs and testimonials quicker before they put it out at the actual price. And it might be that those are sort of loss leaders, so they're actually losing money on the deal, but what they're getting is footage and testimonials and what have you that they can use for their marketing going forward. So that's completely logical. Where it doesn't become logical, again, goes back to this kind of seasonal thing, where if you're saying that a membership can suddenly be 40% less for the next year if you join up this month, well, why? Well, the place is going to be the same for the rest of the year. Why are you getting it for 40% less, particularly 40% less than people who've been members for the last year or the last 2 years? I always find that weird when it comes to things like banks and what have you, where you're going to get a discount if you go and join the bank, but it's only for new customers, or if you move to an insurance company or whatever. Why is it only for new customers? The people that have actually kept you in business all this time, why are you not giving them the same deal? So when there's some logic behind it, then that makes perfect sense. If not, then it's very likely that the only reason this deal is here is just to try and grab as much money as possible in as short a time as possible to pad the bank balance of the facility itself. And nobody really wins out of that. Now, the other thing I mentioned at the beginning of this was doing deals just out of purely desperation. Now, whether or not that is a beneficial thing or not depends on your perspective here, because these things do happen. Small independent gyms that don't have the backing of a global corporation or something, you look at a David Lloyd or a Virgin or something, where they are everywhere. And if one particular venue starts to dip a little bit and they look into it and think, well, okay, it's just a downward trend at the moment and there's a reason for it, but it'll pick back up again. They can be supported by the big machine that is sort of behind it. An independent gym can't really do that. And especially if something drastic happens, for example, maybe their rent suddenly goes through the roof, and they had no control over it, or the non-domestic rates go up at the same month that their gas and electricity goes up, and that month a pipe burst and they had to get a plumber in to fix it, and a piece of equipment broke and they had to repair it, and suddenly they've got all these bills just piling up on them and they don't know what to do about it, and they're going to have to do something quickly because it's either that or close. Now, if you're someone who is a member there and you're looking at this and thinking, I don't want this place to close, I want this place to keep going, then the idea of that facility putting out a deal in order to try and attract more money in quite quickly, more or less to save the facility, that's to your benefit then. It might be that the result of that is that the place becomes a little busier for a little while. And that's something you just have to realize, well, actually, it's that or the place closes. And now it becomes up to you as to how this has been managed and if it is truly going to be of benefit to you, or is this just you only went to this gym because it was the closest one, there's another one 5 minutes up the road and you go to that one and you don't really care either way. Then suddenly the place becoming packed with people, you're probably going to move anyway, so now it's no longer a beneficial deal. But these things do happen. So keep this in mind when it comes to independent gyms. If you found somewhere that is perfect for you, is the place for you, and you don't want to be going anywhere else, then if they're struggling, then doing anything to help them stay afloat is bound to be useful for you. Now, when we were open, again, these are stories I can go into in more detail at another time. But we did have situations, particularly in 2014. We had a huge crash one month in 2014, a catastrophic one. And to be honest, we should probably have closed at that point. But there were still people there and they were supporting us. And I really wanted to push ahead to rebuild the place. But I felt so bad about doing special offers that I don't think I really did any at the time. I think it took me 3 or 4 months before I thought, okay, I'm going to do something here. I've thought of something that I think is actually beneficial, but everyone will benefit from it. And I'll come back to some of the examples that we've used in just a minute. We had people leaving at the time, more or less saying, I don't have time to come at the moment for probably about the next 6 weeks. So I'm just going to cancel just now, but I'll be back. And in truth, if I had been purely all about business, we would have closed at that point and there would have been nothing to come back to. So if you're in a position where you're looking at the gym that's in front of you and you're thinking, this place is perfect for me, you couldn't have built a better gym, you couldn't have built a better facility, and they provide everything I need, then so long as you are able to continue to support that place, even if you don't think you're going to be able to go for a month, it doesn't matter, because if you can afford it, I'm not saying that you should put yourself out, but if you can actually afford it and you genuinely think, well, okay, I was paying for it when I was going, nothing's changed, I'm not financially in a more difficult position, I just physically can't make it at the moment, don't cancel your membership, because it might well be that 2 or 3 people doing that could be enough to make the place fold, and then you get nothing to go back to. Just something to keep in mind when it comes to supporting your local gym. So as I said earlier, I'm going to give some personal examples of things that we used when I had a gym facility. And these are ones that I believe were actually beneficial to everyone. I hated doing deals. I hated doing special offers because it always felt like we were cheapening ourselves, or it felt like we might be doing something that is beneficial to new people who I didn't even know yet, but all these people who'd been supporting us for all these years, we weren't benefiting then. So, as an example of a deal that we offered out that was not just beneficial to the new person, was a tied deal. So the way that that worked was, if an existing member recommended a new member to us and that member came and joined, both of them would get a discount on their membership as long as they were both members of the facility. Now, the thinking behind that was that quite often it might end up resulting in that person bringing in their spouse, their partner, or their brother or their sister, that kind of thing, or a good friend of theirs, someone that they might be looking to train with. So that means that they might be in at the same time as each other. That wasn't always the case, but if that was the case, the way that we'd worked the facility was we only had 7 training slots, but within a slot you could have 2 or 3 people, providing they stayed together, so they weren't taking up any more space than one person would have taken up. So it meant that they weren't tying up more equipment or more gym floor space. And so, therefore, if that person was bringing in a new person and they were likely to be training with that person quite frequently, then it's not going to really impact other people particularly. And as a result, they both get a discount on it. It wasn't always going to be the case and it wasn't flawless, but that was the thinking behind it. So it was a way of generating more revenue that we always paid back into the facility. Whenever we had profits, we always bought more equipment, we always upgraded the facility, we made it better for the betterment of people. And at the time, I think that was the thinking. I think there was a few things that I wanted to pay for, and this was my way of being able to do it. Another thing that we did a couple of times when we felt that we needed to bolster our income, whether that be because we projected a downturn coming, or a downturn had just hit or something, or we just needed income in order to buy more equipment or do some kind of upgrade. Then, because I didn't like the idea that we were going to do something that was only going to benefit new people, but we did want to bring in new people, then we would do something where there was a chance of getting the bonus, but it wasn't guaranteed. And so that might not sound particularly good, but we would make it something that was quite a big bonus. So, for example, we might have offered, for a new member coming in, the potential of getting we used to have a thing called a premium membership, and it was very pricey compared to a standard membership. It did involve one-to-one personal training, so that was nearly £200 a month. Whereas you could come and join our studio membership and just go to the group training sessions for 30, I think it was £37 a month or thereabouts. I can't actually remember the number. Um, so there's a big difference between those two prices. And we made it so that if somebody joined within a certain month, if we could get 10 new signups, then we would put all the names of everyone who was a member of the gym. And we bear in mind we only had less than 100 people, actually less than 70 people at our peak. Um, that was the number of members we had. So there wasn't like thousands of names in this draw. We put all the names in a draw. We would draw one out, and that person would win the free upgrade. Um, and then if 20 people signed up, we would put all the names in the draw, but we would draw two out. And so we would just keep that going. I think we kept that going for about a month or something. So the idea of that was that the people who were already there were now incentivized to go and get new people to come because now they could win something out of it. The new people were incentivized to join because they could get something out of it, but nobody was losing anything. Because when you signed up to the group sessions and stuff, there was a cap on the number of people that could go to any given one of those anyway. We weren't overflowing them or overloading them to the point where it's to the detriment of anyone there. It was literally just to bolster the numbers a little bit. So everybody wins. There was no downside to that whatsoever. One of the other things that I did like to do from time to time was to try and boost engagement from people when they were likely to fall off. One of the most common times of the year for that would be December. So because a lot of people have Christmas nights out, Christmas parties, they had Christmas shopping to do. Um, and not only that, there was a wind up to Christmas, and if their office or their place of work was going to be winding down for a closure over Christmas and New Year, quite often that's when deadlines tend to hit. going back to my architecture days, that was invariably, that was the time of year where the most stress was on, trying to get your submissions in before the planning department closed for Christmas and New Year, because the clock kept ticking. So there was a turnaround that they were supposed to commit to. I think at the time anyway, I don't know if it's different now, where they had to turn it around within 8 weeks. So if you got your submission in before Christmas, then they were going to be closed for 2 weeks, but now they've only got 6 weeks to turn it around. So a lot of developers wanted us to get the content in, and that's the same for a lot of businesses where people just want stuff done before the office closes for Christmas and New Year. And because there's that pressure on everyone, then people are less likely to prioritize their health and their fitness. So I started putting together some ideas of things that people could do in order to make sure they were staying active, make it fun, but also make it incentivized. So, for example, on this channel, you can go and have a look at the 12 days of fitness. We did that, I don't know when that was, 2013, 2014, something like that. And the idea of it was that when I first put it out, it was asking people didn't know what was coming. We just said, there's a prize pool here. And we put together a prize pool that was worth over £500. It was a whole lot of stuff in a bag. We'd got some donations from local companies, and then I'd bought some stuff and put it in there myself. And all the people had to do to be eligible for this on the first day was do I think it was a squat jump into a burpee. I think that was the thing. You can go and look it up on the video that's there. And that's all it was. You had to video it and you had to send it in to me, and that was you now eligible to be part of this. But there was going to be another part to it every single day for 12 days. But it seemed very easy. So you did just squat jump into a burpee, you videoed it, you sent it in. Great, we're into this now. Then on day 2, it was I can't remember. I think it may have been press and rolls, but it was 2 press and rolls and a squat jump into a burpee. Something like that. I can't remember what they were. Go and look up the video if you want to see it. But the idea was that it was going to follow the song of the 12 days of Christmas. So ultimately you ended up doing 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. But for the first 4 days, it was all bodyweight exercises. You could do them anywhere. Now people were committed to the idea that they were in this thing. They'd put money on the table, if you like. Now, there was no benefit to me for there to be 100 people doing this or 10 people doing it or whatever. It was just a fun thing to do to try and encourage people to be active over that period. And people were doing them. You can see in the video that there's some people doing them in their onesies at home. Even when we got to the bit where you needed equipment, some people had the equipment and they were doing it in their garden, or they were doing it up and down their hallway if it was like a farmer's walk, for example, or they were doing it in another gym, which might have been one closer to where they worked, or a gym within their work. And it just kept people going. But it did get to the point where a lot of people who weren't showing up at the beginning suddenly were coming in because they had to use the equipment. It didn't take particularly long to do the exercises. You could come in and you could get through all of it. Even on day 12, I think you could get through all of it in about 15 minutes or something. But it kept people active every single day from beginning to end. And then we gave away the prize at the end. And we also, what we ended up doing as well was the last day was on Christmas Eve. We gave a smaller prize to everyone else who showed up that day. So that's one way we did things like that. We did other challenges as well. So you can even again see on this channel the Prowler Sprint Challenge. That was originally conceived around about Christmas. We did it again in the summer, and that's what's videoed and on the channel. But that came up as a thing that was kind of showing in under 2 minutes you could come in and do a workout that was going to keep you breathing heavily and working all your muscles for a long time after you were finished. And it just showcased how beneficial that could be and how effective it could be, even though you were only in the gym potentially for 2 minutes. So all of these things are beneficial to the members. And I would argue then that they are beneficial deals. They are to the benefit of the people that were coming in looking for a service, not there simply to pad profit. Now, as I've said before, Gyms will continue to do whatever is working. All businesses pretty much will continue to do whatever is working. If you're paying money for something, then what you're showing by that is that you support this idea. And if you're willing to hand over money for it, then the person on the other end of it is going to keep doing what they're doing because they're getting paid to do what they're doing. And you're basically saying that this is what I want. As I said right at the beginning of this, people that hand over money for things are essentially showing that they're willing to commit to that thing. Things that people say they want are not necessarily things that they're going to follow through on and commit on. So when it comes to these deals, by paying more attention and truly evaluating the deal that's in front of you as to whether or not it's beneficial to you, to the facility as a whole, and a beneficial deal for everyone, or is it just something that you feel that you're going to save money on and all it's doing is lining the pockets of the facility or the person providing the service? If you weigh that up properly, then make a decision based on that and only put your backing behind the things that are beneficial to you and to others, then the stuff that is not beneficial to everyone is going to go away because it's not making money anymore. It's not making a profit for that facility. So why would they keep doing it? Now they have to look at something else. And if you being in charge of it, encourage them to do something better, something that is better for everyone, they're bound to do it. So the responsibility comes back to you. And that's why I reiterate this in an awful lot of these videos. You're in control because in any service-based business, the people who are being served lead whether or not that service is a valid one. If no one takes them up on it, it is no longer a valid business. So if you want something to change, do it with your actions. You don't have to whine about it. You don't have to complain about it. Just act accordingly. If you don't like something the way that it is, don't give it your money. For my own personal example with that, I actually loved the first Transformers movie with Michael Bay. I was a big Transformers fan when I was a kid. I loved the first movie. I know a lot of people really hate the whole series. I thought the first one was done incredibly well. It could have been better, but I thought it was done incredibly well. And from that point onwards, it was disappointment after disappointment. But I know plenty of people who are disappointed in the way that it's done, but they went to see every movie in the theaters. So you're voting with your wallet. You're basically saying keep making these because as long as they're making billions, it will keep being made. It's the same with gyms, these services, and these deals. As long as people keep biting on these deals that are of no value to you or to anyone else, the gyms will keep doing them. If you stop biting and you start paying for other things that are more valuable, that's where they're going to shift their attention to. So it's just something to keep in mind. In the next video, we're going to be talking about 24-hour gyms. They could look beneficial to many people. Some people do get a lot of benefit out of them, but I want to look at them in a little bit more detail just to explore the true benefits and some of the negatives in having 24-hour gyms available to us. You might think that there can't be a negative. Let's see in the next video. So until we get to that one, have a fantastic week, stay amazing, and I will see you next time. Bye for now.